All right, Oval fans, here we are, episode 4, A Rat Can Smell Poison. The titles are actually pretty good for these shows. Um, I did watch the shows live. I did watch the Oval and Sisters last night. If you weren't on Twitter, you were missing out. I was having a good time tweeting with other fans, the cast members, and everything on last night. So let's just dive into it. Um, Overall, I think last week's episode 3, was overall better than episode 4. But this episode, I will give it props because, to be honest, I was actually on the edge of my seat for most of it. And I'll just talk about this particular scene right now. The scene with the Franklin family at the breakfast table, two things. Number one, the first time we see all 4 Franklin family members together since the show began, not counting promos and behind the scenes looks. But also the background music that was playing during the scene, of course, Hunter bringing up the allegations against Barry, the son of the butler that Gail brought up and everything. And then, Jason's there, then Gail comes in. And honestly, it felt like somebody was going to get stabbed right there. And I think a couple people were telling me that, Jeremy, man, they should have played this episode during the week of Halloween because it really had some creepy ass themes in it. Like, Jason walking around naked, just not knowing who's going to possibly get killed next. It was something else. So I will say that. And then the cliffhanger ending. And that goes for Sisters and the Oval last night. Tyler Perry, even if an episode is kind of meh, those cliffhanger endings will always get me going, oh, damn. I got to see what happens next. So let's jump right into it. Richard takes the gun from Barry after a hole is shot in the car door. And after Barry leaves, Richard gets in his truck and he hears like a woman screaming going, help, he's been shot. And then Richard looks and then he gets in his truck, cranks it up. And then right after he pulls off, the woman comes outside screaming, help, he's been shot. And then she cries on the sidewalk. And I didn't think too much of it, to be honest, because, correct me if I'm wrong, I know Picky gave Barry a bad location where the cult wouldn't be. And Richard was going there to find him. And what did he say? Yeah, they're over at Rocky or something like that. I forgot the exact name. But I think it was Rocky, right? The area that Picky told him to go to. So honestly, that's not the best part of the neighborhood to be in. But so somebody being shot probably isn't something too much out of the ordinary. But my thing is this. I didn't think that Barry's gun shot anyone. I mean, honestly, it's oh, damn, is Richard shot? But let me just put it this way. The way the gun was at a position, it seemed like it was pointing down towards the floor and almost at Richard's leg, but the gun went off. But the thing was, it shot a hole through the car door, apparently. Or did Richard say there's a hole in the door? So I don't know if the bullet fully penetrated through the door. Because it would have to go through the outer layer of the inside and then go through. Look, I'm not an expert on guns or anything, and I've watched some movies, but I would think that a particular gun or rifle or whatever would have to be pretty powerful to fire a bullet or bullets that can penetrate through a car door fully, through the door and everything. Windows is one thing, but I'm talking about the actual door. Again, I'm a novice when it comes to guns. So if there are any people watching who are more educated on that kind of stuff, then you can let me know in the comments. But I wasn't under the impression that the gun was pointed at such an angle that it could penetrate a car door and then go inside of a building to shoot someone. Not to mention, it's possible that the shooting could have taken place before Richard even got to the location, because the woman made it seem like, she had just discovered I believe a male was shot in her building. And also, wouldn't we have heard, or Richard or Barry, wouldn't they have heard a gunshot, before they left the scene? I mean, if that woman would have been screaming right after their gun went off, oh, damn, we shot somebody, let's get out of here. But I don't know. I just don't feel like the bullet went through the car door and then somehow went into the window of the building, because I don't even believe any of the windows in that particular building were actually open. So maybe the person that was shot was from another conflict that was going on, but it had nothing to do with Richard and Barry. And remember, Picky said the gun had heat on it, so the last thing they need is to be caught with that gun. So hopefully Richard disposes of the gun altogether. Okay, oh, well, then they got to worry about fingerprints, so... Okay, so then we have Victoria attempting to smother Hunter with love, just to say, hey, good morning. You better get up and make it seem like you're somewhat excited for the job. And I guess you could say that Victoria and Hunter scenes are pretty much nothing but back and forth banter. And we find out that Gail's only 16. Honestly, I thought she was a bit older. Paige Hurd does look like a teenager, and I think she's not even that much younger than I am. We're close in the same age. I'm not just throwing that out there, wink, wink. But yeah, she's 16, and apparently Hunter has not assaulted 16-year-old young girls before, but it was always consensual. Ugh. At least Jim Cryer, yeah, from what we know, seems to be going after women who are, at least with... You know what? Let's just move on. So Victoria looks up Denise online. I'm assuming it's like Instagram or whatever. And she calls for a shopping trip. And it's kind of funny how she puts a specific location within her list of places she wants to go, which obviously, based on the preview for next week, seems like she's going to be going directly where she needs to go to rough up Denise. Because as Hunter put it, you can't go on your ghetto tirades, just popping up at people's houses, beating them up like you did in the past. So Barry gets home, gives Shannon some attitude for going to work despite his daughter's missing. And they go back and forth about the car. And to be honest, yeah, they got bills. Shannon has to go to work. Like Callie, the situation is dire, but at the end of the day, the police aren't doing much of anything to help. I mean, what was it? They have to wait for the police station to open before they can even file an official report. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to make light of a missing child situation because not to get too real world in these videos. Well, I mean, honestly, sometimes I have to because it's relating to things. But I don't know, over the past week, it's just been crazy to see how many people have been missing, yet there aren't really any kind of reports on it. You really don't see that many Amber Alerts or missing people cases anymore. I mean, all I'm really seeing is, when they find the dead body or they report it like several days after the missing occurred or something like that. So just watch out for each other out there. That's all I can say. But yeah, and I remember tweeting out, man, Barry needs to cool his jets before he loses his girlfriend, just like he lost his phone, his gun, and his daughter. So after that, Richard gets there and Shannon takes Nancy's car to go to work, and that leads to an actual funny scene in the episode. So then we have Lily and Donald at the breakfast table. Victoria calls Lily, compliments her on the dress, and wants Lily to come shopping with her, which is kind of interesting because I'm like, again, just kind of nodding towards the preview for next week. Donald just keeps letting Lily know that she needs to let the whole Bobby situation go. And wait, I think I might have skipped some, but for some reason, Kyle was doing some kind of weird stretch dance in the sunlight outside of Donald's front door, like in his driveway. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? So after that, we get Jean. That's the name of the maid, Jean. She's doing some cleaning, finds out that Gail didn't eat her breakfast. And while she's, picking things up, Jacob is in the background walking naked. And she just gets the heck out of there. Ugh. So then Jason calls Gene to his room. I mean, Gene is pretty much talking to Priscilla about the whole feeling uncomfortable about the situation thing. And, Priscilla's like, okay, we'll switch to have a male, server go take care of Jason so you won't have to be in those kind of situations again. So Gene comes into Jason's room because, again, the switch hadn't happened yet. But I do believe Priscilla had a male Secret Service agent kind of close by. So Gene wouldn't have to be worried too much. Apparently, he couldn't find a mouthwash. Goes into the bathroom. I'm not going to lie. I thought he had done something crazy freaky in the bathroom for her to find. I was like, ugh. I don't even want to say what I thought he did in there. Let me just be honest. So she goes in the bathroom. He takes off his shirt, blocks the door. Very creepy, uncomfortable scene. And yeah, he opens the door so she can leave. Oh, okay. All right, then we get to Kyle and Donald once again, standing, doing the same awkward pose. Donald calls him out for stalking him, saying that, hey, you're going to be moving to a new Secret Service, or a new detail team. I don't need you around here. And I really want to know what the heck either happened between these two in the past, or if Kyle is just coming on to a person that just isn't into. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But then we get to Hunter, Jason, Victoria at the breakfast table, and Gail isn't there yet. So basically, Hunter calls out Jason for not trying to explore like before. Apparently, a lot of stuff went down at the governor's mansion. To be completely honest, I wouldn't be against. Well, no. Let me just see how the Oval is doing as the season progresses. But heck, I mean, based off the way things are going now, maybe they'll do like either a flashback or prequel series or something like that, where their time in the governor's mansion happened. Because just based off the way Gail and Jason are acting, who knows what they did in that governor's mansion. So, Priscilla checks in with Gail, see what she's doing, and apparently she's taking naked selfies and throws a pillow at Priscilla's head. And she gives her a history lesson on Emmett Till. Is that the name? I hope I said that right. Emmett Till. Yeah, my handwriting was bad. Look, guys, I watched the episode. I write notes and I tweet at the same time. But in any case, she's still going on about how Barry tried to assault her, but the night before she said she was assaulted. And it's like, I can get you fired. I'm like, yeah, she must have caused a lot of hell in the governor's mansion. I don't know. So after that, we have Shannon working at the pharmacy. What is it? Miss Jackson, who literally reminded me of Miss Jerry from Martin. Is like, I ain't taking no shit. I'm 92 years old and I ain't taking no sass. You need to get your shit together. And I think one of the standout performances from the episode was Matthew Law, who looks familiar because he was actually Kendrick, Nyla's abusive ex-boyfriend, then boyfriend again, on The Pains. And I believe his character on here is Kareem, Kareem. I could be wrong, but I think it's Kareem. I remember way back when the Oval first started, on Wikipedia, they had an extensive list of all the characters, as well as 1 to 2 sentence descriptions on the characters. And apparently, he's the son. He works at a pharmacy his family owns, and he has a thing for Shannon, but of course she's with Barry, and that causes a little bit of friction between the two because she doesn't like him bringing him up, which is what was mentioned in the episode. But aside from Victoria, Kareem and Matthew Law, and this goes back, and I might have to do a separate video on like Calvin from Sisters, who was Terrence on The Pains, and then Kareem, who was Kendrick on The Pains. And you all know how I don't like that show. And I was having a conversation with a couple people over the past week. What I love about some actors is that they can shine through when given the right material and they're on a good project. Now, this is a perfect example of this because within a couple minutes on this episode of The Oval, Kareem showed more range, emotion, and likability than he ever did on The Pains. So bravo to that. That was a great scene. And Miss Jackson just had me rolling. Okay, so then we have Richard arriving to work. Priscilla talks about how Gail is still trying to pin this thing on Barry. And, Richard's like, okay, I'll bring the coffee in there because this will be a good time to address the situation, if it's appropriate. So Hunter goes on to fire Richard, long story short. And I remember the gif I posted is like, are you calling my daughter a liar? Well, I ain't calling her a truther. This is one of those things in the, okay, I'll save it. I'm almost done. Okay. So Victoria makes Gail tell the truth. She confesses, and Hunter makes Richard hire, Victoria makes Hunter hire Richard back due to the fact that he's loyal. He's been in the White House for like 2 or 3 terms. So you better get him back and you better make things right. And, after that, she makes a point that cameras are everywhere. Go back and do the playback and see what really happened. Cameras are everywhere. Yes, dear, meaning that his rendezvous with Denise. No, let's just make sure that tape doesn't get leaked. So then after that, we have Kyle trying to get something off of Bobby. And again, a weird scene, but it really runs deep. No pun intended, because of the fact that apparently Bobby and Kyle were working together. And I remember saying this in like episode 1, Bobby going after Lily felt very specific. Like, he knew who he was trying to go for. So we can almost assume that, this is an attempt to sabotage the marriage so Kyle can have Donald to himself. Yeah, very freaky. Then after that, we have the police. This is the last scene. We're at the police station with Barry and Nancy. The police are kind of, well, that woman who was working at the station, she reminded me of the police commissioner from, what was it? TMNT2, Rise from the Shadows. It's like she didn't even believe Stephen Amell, Casey Jones, when he mentioned the aliens and mutants, even though there's a lot of proof that they're there. And she's like, no, I don't believe you. What? So basically, she goes to take the information that Barry and Nancy gave her to look some things up. And Nancy and Barry have a good scene. I will admit, I think the acting was pretty good in this scene. I remember tweeting out, if I would have called my mom stupid or said any of what Barry said, she probably would have been arrested on the spot, because she would have slapped me dead in the mouth for saying what I said to her. But to be honest, Nancy's heart was in the right place, but sometimes when people just aren't right in the head, yeah, you got to think about this. Sometimes the safety of a child or a loved one is more important than their feelings. I know that might sound a bit messed up, but yeah, just because you want to see your mom, even though she's in a cult and everything, it probably is best not to let her see your mom. So the police officer comes back and shows it almost, and I'm not trying to be funny here, but we saw Ruth's photo, which looked very similar to Rihanna after she got beat by Chris Brown. So she's dead. I'm like, I didn't think she was dead. I thought she was just beaten up, because honestly I had my eyes covered. But then in the preview for next week, we see a body being pulled out of the morgue. So yeah, that's Ruth. Ruth is dead. What the hell? So what the heck happened to Callie? Cliffhanger. Boom. That was good. So overall, guys, 8 out of 10. I feel like this episode wasn't as... It was the acting. I think some of the points came off of the acting. Like, Hunter's delivery during the breakfast table scene and then firing Richard, I didn't really feel it, Nothing against Ed Quinn. I just feel like, and that's the thing about actors. Like, when you watch interviews, behind the scenes footage, interacting with the cast behind the scenes rather than, in an actual filming scene, it's like they have emotion, they have range. So when you see them in situations like this, you expect a little bit more than a monotone performance. So last week, I thought he did well, like when he was talking with Denise, and isn't Max the security guard that helped Denise come in and out of the White House, and then, spoke to Hunter in the Oval when he's like, why don't you screw around my wife to get her off my back? So I just feel that I think the performance could have been a bit better there, and I think a couple of people commented on some of my older Oval videos about last night's episode. Hey, I watched it last night. Yeah, the acting was a bit off in some scenes. I think Hunter was the most jarring one. Gail is not terrible, but as the series goes on, I'm sure we'll find out more and get more. But just the same old, I can have you fired, and her just acting like a spoiled brat is getting a bit old. I know it's only episode 4, but come on, just hang with me. Jason isn't bad, just creepy. I think that Daniel Kendrick, I hope I said that right. I believe his first name is Daniel. Follow him on Instagram. For the most part, he plays his role well. I might not be the biggest fan of his character, but he plays the role of creepy, very subtle, and creepy. But he does the role well, so he gets props. Victoria easily to stand out. Like, there's no need even touching upon that. All I can say is her actress is a sweetheart in real life, because she posts videos on Instagram and Twitter, and she seems so much nicer in person. But she shifts gears. She reminds me of Angela Robinson in a way. Like her real life demeanor is nothing like her on-screen persona. So I feel like she can flip the switch when necessary, and it comes across well. Nancy, Shannon, Richard, and Barry, I think they did pretty good this week. Priscilla, yep. Donald, Lily, yeah, I think pretty strong. Kyle's just a weirdo, but I did like the surprise factor of him and Bobby working together. And yeah, I've already praised Matthew Law. That was great. So yeah, I mean, overall, it was a pretty good episode. Like I said, it was the background music in certain scenes were on point. The surprise factor of a lot of different scenes have me thinking, okay, next episode is going to be, I can't wait to see how stuff is going to unfold. So yeah, the Oval has gotten a lot better. Like the first two episodes have nothing on episodes 3 and 4. So that's really all I have to say. 8 out of 10. I stand by my score. And you all know the drill. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Comment your thoughts on this episode. And yeah, I will catch you in the next video because I want to go ahead and review Sisters. And I do not think that video is going to be very long at all.